What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and I just spent 6 hours delving into the new Gears of War 4 beta, and I wanted to give you my first impressions on how it plays so far. This title sits in a bit of a weird place because this is the first Gears game that wasn't actually made by Epic Games. Instead, it was made by the Coalition. The real question though is it better or is it worse? Honestly, a bit of both, but we'll get to that. Essentially, the core gameplay is almost exactly the same as it's always been. You're going to be grabbing a shotty, sprinting into battle, and blowing people into gooey chunks. Many of the classic guns from earlier in the series make a return. During my time, I used a sniper rifle to give out a few haircuts, the torque bow to clear some crowds, and the boom shot to utterly liquefy my opponents. I also got a taste of one of the new weapons being introduced in Gears 4, the drop shot. Upon firing it, you send a hovering explosive over the map. The longer you hold the trigger, the further it flies, but the moment you let it go, it comes crashing down and detonates. This gives gamers a fantastic extra option for dealing with camping players because this thing will utterly decimate anyone standing still. As a whole, combat feels a little bit faster than it did in Gears of War 3. I found myself getting around the map a little bit quicker, downing people a little bit easier, and picking up teammates and escaping all the more easily. For this beta, we got 3 maps and 2 modes to test out. Of course, we get Team Deathmatch along with a new game mode called Dodgeball. This is Deathmatch with a small twist. When you die, you can't come back to life until a teammate can successfully kill an enemy player. This might sound like a silly gimmick, but it leads to some very heated firefights. When you're the last man standing and you know that for every kill you score, another person will show up to back you up, you might find your hands shaking from the adrenaline. These game modes both work well, but they have a strange staleness to them. As someone who absolutely adores the Gears of War series, I was hoping for something to feel fresh and improved, some spark to make Gears of War stand out, when really there's nothing really fancy that makes this feel different. The only really cool new feature is called the Yank and Gank. Now, whenever you have your back against a wall, it's possible to grab somebody who's hiding on the other side. It's something that looks very dramatic, but unfortunately is pretty much useless. Most of the gameplay is still about bouncing around the map with a shotty in your hand, trying to stay ahead of your enemies and racing for super-powered guns. Perhaps where the overall design shines the most is in the levels themselves. The 3 maps we got to play on are the Foundation, the Dam, and the Harbor. Each of these areas have a nice scattering of weapons, along with enough tricks to keep you a little bit off guard. At one point, I discovered a bow hidden at the farthest end of a long open spot. Since no one saw me, I scooped it up and started firing into a crowd of players clashing mid-field. It was awesome getting to see my enemies try and outrun my reign of death. Well, that is until I caught a chainsaw to the spine. Speaking of horrible ways to die, executions are back, but with no new animations. Whether it be smashing some skulls or unleashing the Lancer on an opponent, these are the exact same moves that we saw 5 years ago. I'm not saying it's lazy, it's just weird to see so much recycled content. I also couldn't help but notice that it seems like they censored these executions a little bit. As you can see, as soon as I started my triumphant finisher, it strangely zooms in. This obscures what I'm doing and just leaves a few splashes of blood on my screen and nothing else. I'm not particularly upset by this change, it just looks really bizarre to have such a clean looking version of Gears of War. As a whole, this game is fun, but I think it needs some major work before its release in October. Personally, I plan on hitting level 20 just so I can unlock the bonuses that I'll get at launch, and after that, I think I'll be content waiting for the full game later this year. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. This has been DreamcastGuy with another review. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming of chainsaws. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked this video, maybe check out my last video. Please subscribe, and if you want, share this somewhere with your friends.